Bitcoin price forecast. Why is the European Union trembling? Imagine Bitcoin becoming the most powerful currency in the world. But who holds the reins? The EU or the USA? The EU trembles while Bitcoin breaks record after record. Bitcoin had surpassed the $100,000 mark, but experts say that's just the beginning. And the USA? Trump wants to make Bitcoin the strategic reserve of the USA. What does this mean for you and your wallet? In the next few minutes, I'll show you why Bitcoin is redefining the question of world power. And a crazy prediction, could Bitcoin break the dollar's dominance by 2029? What exactly is Bitcoin now? For those who are not yet familiar with Bitcoin, I'll explain it briefly again. In essence, Bitcoin is a layer 1 blockchain, meaning a blockchain technology with proof of time work and is seen as digital gold. Additionally, it was founded in 2008, essentially anonymously by Satoshi Nakamoto. What makes Bitcoin so special now? In essence, it verifies transactions and is decentralized. What is the advantage of Bitcoin now? Essentially, you no longer need a middleman because transactions are verified worldwide by different nodes. So if you send money from Germany to America and do it through a bank, the bank as a central authority checks your transaction. So in essence, it can approve or deny it. With Bitcoin, it's different. When you transfer money from one country to another, it is verified on the blockchain by various participants, simply put. If they all confirm that you own the Bitcoin, then the Bitcoin will definitely reach the other party without you being questioned. It is simply done mathematically. I could go into much more detail, but this video is about my 20 metrics analysis. Enjoy it! If you're new to my channel, I analyze altcoins in detail using 20 metrics. In the end, you get a result in percentage and price scenarios, so you're fully informed about this altcoin. Especially now, when there's another significant dip in the altcoin market, you can position yourself perfectly by watching my analyses to be well prepared for the next altcoin season. Enjoy it, and now let's move on to the full analysis. Let's get to the first point, the market capitalization and how much potential Bitcoin actually still has. In essence, it is already a high cap, the highest in the crypto sector. However, the long-term potential is massive. How much potential? I will cover that in this complete analysis. In this area, a solid 10. Then the circulating supply, how high is it? In other words, how many tokens are actually already on the market? With over 94%, Bitcoin is massively well positioned here. Most of the tokens are already truly on the market and can no longer cause price pressure. Therefore, a strong 9 in this area as well. What is the roadmap like? Does Bitcoin even have a roadmap? In essence, they don't have a direct roadmap because they are not centralized, but decentralized. Various developers around the world continue to develop Bitcoin, and when such an update is approved, it is eventually rolled out. However, Bitcoin has already introduced the Lightning Network, in the past, for example. All in all, they are more community-based here and have a roadmap in that sense. Therefore, a solid 6 for now. Then, how strong is the Bitcoin team actually? Does Bitcoin actually have a team? And ultimately, they don't have a team. Instead, it is developed and further developed in a decentralized manner. However, it was founded by an anonymous creator, Satoshi Nakamoto. He is very well known, but it has not yet been revealed who exactly that is. Then what narratives does Bitcoin serve? Well, digital gold and protection against inflation, for example. This is extremely strong for the future, hence a 10. What problem does Bitcoin actually solve? Ultimately, it solves the problem of trust in the financial sector. As mentioned at the beginning, at the moment we all essentially trust a bank, a central authority that ultimately manages our money. So in the end, it doesn't really belong to you. With Bitcoin, it's different. If you own a Bitcoin, for example on a hardware wallet, then it belongs only to you. Additionally, Bitcoin is of course censorship resistant. One must always keep in mind that not all people in the world have access to the financial system, the international one. We, from Europe or the USA, have access to it, but not all people in the world do. This is different with Bitcoin. Here, essentially anyone who has a smartphone and internet access theoretically has access to Bitcoin. So in this area, it's a strong 10. Then what does sustainability look like? Well, since Bitcoin is based on proof of work, it is indeed very energy intensive. There are always many fake news stories claiming that Bitcoin is massively energy intensive. However, this must be viewed in relation to the entire financial system. In comparison, Bitcoin is energy efficient. In my analysis, however, it is about comparing it to altcoins. How energy intensive is Bitcoin? There. And ultimately, Bitcoin is more energy intensive compared to some altcoins that are based on proof of stake. That's why it's only a 4. Then, are there investors? Is there capital? Well, and with ETFs, extremely strong investors have joined. We also have, of course, MicroStrategy, which keeps buying Bitcoins, but also BlackRock. All in all, the institutional interest in Bitcoin is a massive 10. Then, what are actually the competitors of Bitcoin? Does Bitcoin even have competition? Bitcoin has the clear advantage of being the first one that exists. This makes Bitcoin unique, and in that sense, there is no competition, because Bitcoin is simply far too advanced. One could now say from a technological standpoint that Casper could compete with Bitcoin, but that is really only from the technology side. By the way, I link my analysis of Casper up here for you. Enjoy it. In this area, a strong 9. Then, does Bitcoin actually have marketing? In the end, they don't have marketing in that sense, but through the community and further interest, Bitcoin grows organically. In this area, a strong 8. Then, how simple is the idea behind Bitcoin? Well, it is easy to understand for everyone. Digital gold, protection against inflation, and ultimately being able to make transactions without banks. In this area, a strong 8. Then, what is the long-term vision of Bitcoin? Does Bitcoin even have a long-term vision? And yes, they ultimately want to restore the financial sovereignty of people. Bitcoin was ultimately founded in 2008, after the financial crash, and especially, of course, the long-term vision of decentralization. All in all, a strong 10. Then, is Bitcoin deflationary? Does it have a max supply? And of course, it has a maximum supply of 21 million Bitcoin, and it is deflationary due to the halvings. Additionally, Bitcoins that are lost cannot was returned due to the market. This makes it deflationary. In this area, a strong 10. Then, what does it look like? It is, of course, very close. Market cap, which is extremely positive. A strong 10. How is the liquidity? Bitcoin is extremely liquid. A strong 10. How was the token distribution? Were there lockup periods? And because of the halving cycle, it is naturally extremely fair. It started through mining. In the end, everyone could obtain Bitcoin through mining up to today. All in all, strong. Then, are there top coin holders who own an extremely large amount of Bitcoin? Satoshi himself, of course, has a lot, but institutional investors like MicroStrategy also have a significant amount of Bitcoins. Nevertheless, everything is still within a good range, 9. What is the actual utility of Bitcoin? Store of value, of course, meaning a value storage for transactions. Then, for example, via the Lightning Network for payments and, of course, as a medium of exchange. All in all, it offers strong utility. Then, how strong is the community? As already mentioned. 2. Bitcoin grows organically through news, and adoption. All in all, a strong 8. Then, what events are still coming up this year for Bitcoin? The halving was already last year. The next halving is in 2028, but additional ETFs are of course also advantageous and will still come. In America, Bitcoin is increasingly being used as a reserve currency. And perhaps in the future, Bitcoin will even be actively purchased by America. All in all, these are strong indicators for this year, a 9. Let's get to the result. Bitcoin reaches 86.5. That is a top value. Bitcoin, of course, has a strong tokenomics, essentially a really good idea, an important narrative, and is unique in the market. The long-term growth of Bitcoin is massive. Let's move on to the price scenarios. If the entire crypto market develops only moderately, $126,000 would be possible. However, if the entire crypto market grows massively in this cycle, over $200,000 would be possible. A massive global adoption with various governments wanting to build a strategic reserve could see Bitcoin reach up to $500,000 in this cycle. All of these are, of course, massive values, but only mathematically theoretical possibilities and not financial advice. Now that you know the potential of Bitcoin, I'll link you to an interesting, in quotes, alternative to Bitcoin, Casper. Why Casper is so exciting, I will show you in this complete analysis. You definitely shouldn't miss it. So see you soon in the next video. Enjoy it.